Hi, my name is Jeff Pagano, and welcome to the Harpin and Rugby Preview Show. Joining me to look ahead to Ireland's next Six Nations assignment is someone making his 31st pod appearance. Welcome back to Mr. Kino O'Muilleoir.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks for having us.
No problem. Good to have you. And just before we crack on, Kino, we just want to take a quick look at Ireland's tournament so far. And listen, I'm sorry to spring this on you, but I was just wondering if you might have some stats.
Ooh, let me just have a look in my
Yeah.
big lockbox over here. Yeah, I think I have a couple.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Coincidentally, I was just during the week there looking at a review document that the Six Nations put out, just kind of mid-term, having a look at how things have been going so far, and I came up with a couple of headliners from the Irish performances that kind of encapsulate it to some extent and kind of looks forward to the England game as well. So at the top of them, first of them was the headline. The big one for me was 30% of all of the tries in the first three rounds of the 2023 Six Nations. That's 13 out of 44 have been scored off the Irish line out. So if that doesn't underscore the importance of the Irish line out to the Irish scoreline, I don't know what does. Similarly enough, actually, in open play, 30% of all of the line breaks in the first three rounds of the Six Nations, that's 30 out of 90, have been by Irish players. So it's a bit of synchronicity there, but of course the causality we won't assume any there.
No.
Top of the stats for tackle breaks, 23%, and passes at 25% of the total so far across all the teams, and the highest number of dominant carries.
Yeah.
That's dominant carries there. And then conversely, actually, England have the joint highest level of incomplete tackles alongside Italy at 21%, and the joint highest missed tackles alongside Italy and Wales at 13%. So the incomplete tackles along with the dominant carries actually kind of bodes quite well for Saturday, but sure, we'll get into that anyway. And then one of my favorites was the line breaks per 80 minutes. The top 10 of that has Lowe in second place after Billy Barricade up at the top there. But after Lowe in second, you've got Byrne, Cian, and Baird in third, fourth, and seventh, respectively. The only other forward in the top 28 is Basolo Tuilagi in 22nd place.
It's mad,
So
isn't
it
it?
gives you an idea as to what we're doing differently and kind of why Ireland's results are so far different gravy than everyone else's so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, even if you just look at the table itself and the results overall, like you look at the three matches from a weekend, and one is close, and then Ireland is
Yeah.
it hasn't been so close so far. So yeah, it's amazing that we're dominating in all those areas for sure. Okay, so listen, now it's time to look at our feature match of the week, which is of course England v Ireland in round 4 of the 2024 Guinness Six Nations. It's taking place at Twickenham on Saturday, March the 9th. Kicking off at 4:45 p.m. TV coverage in Ireland is on RTE2 and ITV1. And as ever, you'll find the full listings for the weekend over at harpinandrugby.com. Just click the Rugby on TV tab. Ireland named their match day 23 at 2 p.m. on Thursday. If you're watching on YouTube, it should be right there in the screen, or for pod listeners, it's in the program notes. Kino's picked out a couple of points from the Irish lineup, starting with our 6-2 bench.
Yeah, 6-2 is the new black. It really is. It suits Ireland, especially because we as we just went through, the line out is particularly important for Ireland. And we've had some issues around the scrum, though. Those seem to be being ironed out, but the forward play is really important to what Ireland use as a platform for the rest of it. So being able to generate that forward dominance or parity in the scrum and line out, especially with larger teams, and especially again if they've gone for a 5-3, the 6-2 can be really, really beneficial to that. Also allows the forwards to empty the tank, and when you play such a high ball in play and high tempo game as Ireland do, being able to do that with your forwards gives you a lot more oomph in your carry over those extended periods of ball in play. There's other things as well, the psychological edge of seeing six forwards galumphing onto the pitch at the same time, especially if your kind of opposition is struggling or kind of maybe a little bit behind. That's got to be very tough to take. It does have its drawbacks as well, of course, in the back line. And your backs, they do have to manage the game a little bit differently because they do have to try and last the full 80 for the most part. And it has effects on different players as well. I mean, Frawley's stock has risen quite meteorically as the perfect 23 man. being able to cover, of course, 10, 12, 15, and could probably do a job on the wing if needs be. Um, Though the flip side of that then is, for example, Ringrose and McCluskey. Ringrose is versatile, McCluskey probably a little less so, but both miss out as a result of only having those two backs spaces on the bench. So it's give and take.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I have this image in my head of an Irish coaches meeting before the Six Nations when they knew they were going with the 6-2 benches, and they knew how well Bundy, Robbie, and Stu as well were playing. I just imagine one of the coaches, probably Andy, saying something like, "Lads, you do know we're likely to have a situation where Gary's fit to play, and we can't bloody pick him." Do you know what I mean? It's crazy. It's amazing. I mean,
Yeah,
but it's I suppose it's a what they call a good complaint for coaches to be able to do, and you knew like they had the 6-2 for France. They didn't for Italy, but then they did for Wales. And I had a feeling there was a lot of this selection in that Wales selection just to get used to the nuts and bolts of having the 6-2. And like you say, the backs have to play a certain way as well. And it was all gearing for Twickenham. It'll definitely be tested anyway. We'll see how it goes.
100%.
So now your other point is basically is on the ins and outs of the squad from previous matches.
Yeah, yeah. There's a bit of a little bit of swapping around. In the 15, obviously, it's just Keenan's back in now. He got that knee injury, in the game against Wales, but he's back literally just kind of. He was a day ahead of schedule. That got him in for the Tuesday session. And if you don't get the Tuesday session, you're not in the team.
Mm.
Tr Like historically speaking, it's just he would have missed out. So it's just in time, and that's a significant boost to our backfield management. Frankly, I mean, like, Frawley did a great job. Don't get me wrong. I think he actually did a fine job, and probably did a little bit more than I was expecting from him on his
Yeah, he showed up
debut
at
in a
first
tough position.
receiver,
Yeah,
Vlad. He was doing a lot. He wasn't just filling Hugo's boots, as it were. He was involved in the creativity as well.
yeah, for sure. He put himself about.
Mm.
But it's Hugo Keenan.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Say no more. He's fit. He plays.
Yeah, absolutely. He'll be key in diffusing some of those aerial bombs and hopefully generating some opportunity actually for us because I think a lot of our opportunity is going to come from the counter, more so possibly than have done the other games we've had so far in the Six Nations. But I'll get maybe into that again a little bit later on. On the bench, then on the outs, we've got Jaeger is out with a knee issue as well. It's all the knees. It's always the knees. Ryan out with a freak bicep injury in non-contact training yesterday. I mean, it's just horrible. Look, how do you even do that?
Mm.
Poor
Don't want
guy.
to know. Yeah.
Poor guy. And yeah, then McCluskey, very much like Ringrose, he misses out because of that 6-2 split. So then incomings, you've got Beelum coming back in. I mean, he's in absolutely flying form. It's kind of himself and Jaeger are getting to take turns seemingly by accident. But to be honest, it's no harm that Jaeger gets got a little bit of an intro to international rugby ahead of probably being like almost definitely being on that tour to South Africa this summer. Henderson, he had good levels of dog in him off the bench against Italy. And yeah, I've got a feeling he's kind of going to want to prove that he's by no means done. And hopefully with a little bit of maybe a little bounce in his step with
Oh
changes
yeah.
happening up north. Like,
Yep. Absolutely. I can see him running onto the pitch, and he'd probably be calling the lineouts at that stage, maybe,
yeah.
and calling one to himself. Don't want to give the game away, but I'd probably look out for that, unless, of course, Steve Borthwick is listening to this pod, which he could very well be, of course, But anyway, no, definitely, there's some interesting. Some interesting late game combinations there for sure. Okay, so listen, we'll move on and have a look at the England lineup, starting with their out half selection. You reckon George Ford was a good call?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think he was the right call for this. He started their three games so far, stepping up, after Marcus Smith got injured. And he's the second top point scorer in the first three rounds, having kicked 34 of England's 64 points to date. So more than 50% has come from his boot. Given the kick heavy game plan that they have, they're going to well, that they're likely to have. Actually, we don't know for certain, but it's really likely by the looks of things. Sticking with him is probably the right option, even with Smith back from injury at this point. Um, and then let's see. Yeah, Faye Waboso gets his third cap. I mean, he got his first against Italy. It was like 3 minutes, but they all count. God love Isa. Um, and yeah,
And you were
yeah,
saying how important the lineout was for Ireland. I'd say that that might be something England might go after.
yeah. Very important for Ireland. Obviously, they got three locks in that 15. Itoje and Martin in the second row, and Chesham at the six. And they've no locks on the bench, but I think they'll make do with those three and do a bit of rotation. Maybe taking Chesham in because they've got a couple of back row options there on the bench too. Their line-out defense has been decent enough. They've taken 15% of opposition line-out. Well, or interfered enough anyway to call it a win. So I reckon that that's a platform that they'll know Ireland rely on. So they're going to put as much pressure on that as possible.
And no forwards in the center, I say.
Oh, you mean they haven't cottoned on to the genius that
I
is
know.
playing a forward at 12.
I
Um,
know. It could have been a masterstroke, you know. Sure, we'll never know.
and speaking of surprising selections, actually, yeah, no Stewart
Yeah,
at the back. That was a surprise to me, frankly. I
yeah.
think that's probably the unlike some of the other selections that was going around, that was the only kind of issue I could take
Well, you see, my
with
thing
that
is
selection.
my thing is that aside from all the tactics, it's a question of motivation. And one thing, you know, England are going to be motivated to
Yeah,
turn this over seriously, whether there was the championship on the line or not for them, especially with what happened at the Viva last year. And if you're talking about what at the Viva last year, what's the one player who would definitely want to play 80 minutes in this man to be motivated to do it? It was Freddie Stewart. I just thought it was a foregone conclusion that he'd be playing, you know.
yeah, and he's been in some good form for them as well. Like, I mean, he's the second
mm,
highest carries and running meters for them. He's the joint first tackle breaks. He's the joint second break assists per 80 minutes. And now their back three is going to have 15 caps between them, taking on arguably the best Northern Hemisphere team at the moment, or the most informed Northern Hemisphere team at the moment. Let's say that.
yeah,
Let's say
yeah.
that.
There you go. We'll go with that. We'll go with that. That
Informed is
works.
nicely wishy-washy and doesn't involve
Yeah.
World Cup quarterfinal
No.
jokes.
But yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Yeah. But
uh,
no, listen. No, the thing about this English team is that I think the key is when they have the ball around midfield, because basically, or you know, maybe more in our half, those situations where they're running through the phases there. Because if we have a lack of discipline, they'll pop it in the corner and they've got Jamie George there. We all know what can happen. It can happen two, three, four times in a game. But if we even if our defense holds out, you got George Ford will pop over a drop goal from pretty much anywhere, and he's willing to do it, and he'll keep the scoreboard ticking over. That's something that's one area where they have had success. So there's a very good chance they will score points on the day. So it's to be all down to how that their defense meets us, you know. So it's going to be a fascinating battle, and it's not a foregone conclusion at all.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Ireland go with the whether they go with the kick return or the run return, depending on where obviously the ball's coming down. But I think we'll actually probably kick return fairly far out. I don't think it'll be 20 kind of just outside the 22
Mm.
on. I think it could be anywhere up to the half because if you play the territory game and keep them pinned into that kind of, just outside the 22 area, I'm not sure that that back three will really have the running game to take on those 50-50s.
Yeah, well, like you say, you flagged them as like sort of inexperienced at this level. So I mean, you got to test them out. I mean, it'd be
Yeah.
rude not to,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
yourself. So yeah, definitely some fascinating battles for sure between those two teams. Now we're gonna have just a quick look at the officials. There, we've got Nika Amashikeri from Georgia, the referee, and his assistants. There, you'll see on the screen, and the weather for Twickenham on Saturday afternoon and evening is mostly cloudy with a bit of rain, mild enough, 13 degrees. Could get pretty windy. But so that's how that's going to look. And now we're going to have a very quick look at the other matches this weekend. We've got Scotland playing Italy, and of course Wales v France.
Yeah. Scotland capable of some good and bad, as are Italy. It could be terrible or it could be great crack. You won't know until 80 minutes is up, which it was. Well, actually, you probably have a fairly good idea after an hour. I don't really foresee an upset on this one, so I'm going to go with Scotland by 8.
Yeah. Okay. And then on the Sunday, we've Wales and France.
That rejigged France team off the back of a rather chastening draw. That was like just about a draw. Um, Yeah, it has an ominous feel about it to me. Against an even younger looking Welsh side than they had before. Somehow they've managed to do that without raiding the local preschool. So yeah, I think France by 10 actually there.
Yeah, that's definitely a good shout. And of course, a shout out as well to the under 20s. Richie's Wolf Puppies are, of course, also playing their English counterparts. And I have to say, even if you take away all their wins in recent years, the Six Nation weekend isn't really fully complete without watching the under 20s as well. It's always a good watch. They play Friday evening, kicking off at the Rec at 7:15 p.m. Best of luck to them, and that definitely won't be an easy one against. That's a good crop of English under 20s.
Yeah, it's a decent crop. To be honest, England usually manage to come up with a decent crop of under 20s, but their scrum is, by all accounts, rather monstrous.
Mm,
It's a bit of a worry, I have to say, for this tilt from Richie's boys. So I'm hoping they can do it, but it'll
yeah,
probably be this in spite of the scrum rather
yeah.
than anything else. So
Definitely one of the
fingers crossed
biggest
for 'em.
challenges they faced. All right, yeah, outside that final last summer. Okay, so that leaves us with head on the block time. Kino, what's your Twicker's prediction?
I'm always nervous playing England. There's such a massive history of hurt there. Like I'm never not going to be nervous playing England. But that said, shy of Ireland playing like really tragically awful, and England springing the biggest surprise in attack since the Trojan horse. I think this is an Irish win. I think England will make it difficult in the set piece, and they'll have a doughty defense. But I actually reckon Ireland by 14.
Yeah, I mean, like right now, I'm really confident. I know that confidence is going to go down until kickoff time. I'm going to be nervous. That's going to be the
Yep,
same for every Irish fan. But
yep.
what we've seen consistently over the past while is the lads on the pitch don't show that nervous. It's their belief in themselves that really carries us through a lot. So we can go on by that. You can definitely see that that prediction panning out for sure. Okay, man, we're going to leave it there, Kino. Many thanks. Have a great weekend and hope to see you soon.
Likewise.
And many thanks to you all for tuning in to our latest preview show. Enjoy the match wherever you are. Be sure to follow us on all the usual social media channels. And if you ever listen to Dublin South Radio at 93.9 FM, for the next while, we have a Harpin segment as part of the 5 o'clock news on a Friday evening. So do check that out. And then we will, of course, have a wrap pod for you this week, recording on Sunday evening. So hopefully you'll help us out by liking, sharing, and subscribing. In the meantime, stay safe, everyone. Slán.